Where'd it go? Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Adventures for Connection. Guess who we've got on today? We got Chastia here with us. And boy, do we have a lot that's going to come out and just be expressed. Definitely, if you have any questions, please ensure that you get them in there, because without y'all, sometimes we don't know which way to go. Give us a direction, everyone. And, while we're on here, the first thing I want to be able to do is give a shout out to Jade, telling her happy solar return.
Happy solar return to you, 2006. Happy solar return to you,
2006.
Mrs. Jade. Miss Jade. Oh, I just married you.
Oh, you better slow down.
Uh-oh.
She may have something to say without that, but
hey, at least there's a connection. I saw a connection.
Right?
Misses at some point, Tanja.
Oh yeah.
Hold
definitely.
on.
Definitely. I mean, it's especially as quick as it seems, time, I don't think there's anything such as time standing still so much anymore. And then of course, the experiences that we keep continuing to have and seeing how these energies are just really, coming up and just making so much shifting and moving. And, for me, I've been out of time for quite some time. Given what I'm experiencing.
You and me share that.
I have to look at a clock, because it's like, I'm just wherever I am, I'm in that focus as to where I'm being led or guided or whatever it is that's just coming through. And for me, that's a lot these days, especially, I mean, even in my travels at night, it's like I'm in different places, and so much is being shown to me then to bring through and, and allow that to guide me in ways that, brings forth at least, some guiding material and some tools for everyone here that's wanting to understand more and more about who they are, especially through having their charts done and, having a greater understanding about what that signifies, what this beautiful, expressive, just creative tool is about, and, and giving them that guidance and letting them know, this is about astronomy. This is about those connections that are further out beyond the scope of the astrological wheel. So
it's been the astronomy has been what kept the wheel turning.
Mm-hmm.
And the timestamps that we do, and I know that a lot of people probably look at my TikTok feed and they're like, what are these people doing? It's like she says something and they're all like 6:37, 7:01, And when you're out of time, which we're out of time. We've been out of time. We're literally out of time. Not like we're physically out of time. Some of us went out of time in order to reset time to get everyone back in time so we could finally undo time. But those timestamps, whenever you do them, you don't realize you're subconsciously programming it into your system. And so whatever it is that you're doing, whenever you do those timestamps, then what you're doing is, even subconsciously, because you're not ever going to remember all of them.
Right.
But they all link in together to form a story. And then those timestamps go out in the collective. whenever if it's a big one, and everybody might have a different timestamp whenever I do this, when I do it, I might do it at one particular time, but then y'all come on and then it's like boom, 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 boom. And then all of that gets put into an overriding timeline. And then what happens is that in the collective consciousness, because it might not be my code, because my code's going to be way up here in the ethers, and then this one's going to be way down here. So it's going to basically aggregate those, and then it's going to send them out to the collective, and then everyone's going to start looking at the clock and seeing 1:31.
Right.
And then you go to the grocery store and you ring up 131.13 cents. And you don't know any of the people that are doing it. They're all around the world. They're in your DNA strand, or they're in another sphere of a mimic of you in another country because of how this was being played out in a simulation. So those timestamps are what is keeping time.
Right.
and it ends up building up. And this is why the command, yes, you need to command your conscious, you need to command things to do things, especially when you're coming out of different layers. But most of it is for you.
Well, isn't that's also like the one thing that I've come to understand, even through, some of what I'm coming to understand about what time is used for and utilized for. There's also timestamps of significance in time. Yeah. So that because those were doors that they would utilize through travel.
Well, that is what you're picking up whenever you make the command in the timestamp.
Gotcha. And so us doing this and making those timestamps is actually us rewriting that time for that timestamp because it has the new information.
Because nobody else is rewriting it.
Gotcha.
Because the only groups that had this ability to do this, you would call the Illuminati, or you'd call the CA ball, but it was our infrastructure they were utilizing.
Right.
So when we have to make those commands, because the energy it's just going to go revert and it's going to go back to doing what it used to do.
Right.
And so each one of us with our third eyes open at these different layers, all communicating at once. Because whenever we say it's changing, you're changing more than one dimension at once. Whenever I'm making the command and then all y'all are second, it's happening all at once. It's changing. And then it's gonna uncoil, but then it's uncoiling so that you can see the change in your third eye. So that's why all of a sudden, like on the Telegram today, and if you're watching this and you're not on the Adventures for Connections Telegram group, please get on there. It's the best mini spirit TikTok that we've got right now. And everyone's sharing their experiences. And now we're starting to really uncoil some stuff. And so today the group was witnessing and starting to understand how that happens. Because this is why you want to be chill until you're not. You don't want to think about nothing. You don't want to go study about nothing right now. You don't want to fill your energy with anything until you're like, okay, wait a minute. Why did I just hear the Doors? LA Woman. LA Woman. Why am I hearing that? Well, you heard that because we had just broke open all those doors where So I'm catching the weird like mayhem and I'm like linking in all the crazy stuff from the Masonic stuff in Los Angeles and Disney, and then Appalachians came in, then it was Apple, then it was the Eris rock, then it was the Prince symbol, and those were coming from each one of y'all because that's what you're seeing. Whatever we were talking about, that's the same energy.
Yep.
It's just coiled up down here under the doors. And then,
Yeah, it's like Carolyn just mentioned about the song Back in Time. And I already mentioned this to Chastia earlier today, that it was the song that just popped into my mind. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because it took me a minute to correlate the beat to what it was went to. And I'm like, okay, why am I having to think about this? Because that should be immediate. But it took me about 2 minutes to connect that. Oh, this is that song Back in Time from Back to the Future. And I'm like, that's interesting that this is popping up and coming through. And, and of course, mentioning that I kept putting 25 instead of 2025, so it's one of those that, as you said, is staying where you're present enough, where you're noticing that subconsciously you're doing things. And there's a reason for that. Your subconscious is telling you something, or it's that where your awareness is coming to understand that subconscious is somewhere that you're consciously may not be. And so that's how you're bringing this together and recognizing that energy. You're recognizing this is where timelines are actually kind of coming through for you, where like you said, you have that those times where it had come through a little bit before, quicker than for others. So for me, it's like I'm getting aware it's 2 and 3 days before, because especially these last 2 weeks, the conversations that you've been having on your TikTok or even on your YouTube, I was already on it.
Right. Well,
and
that's
so,
how I'm picking it up, pieces of it. Because this is what we were talking about before y'all came on. Y'all's whole group, everybody that got charts from me, September, October, November, December, and even like a lot of you that sprinkle in the group. Not everybody, because there'll be so many more that's come in. But a lot of y'all came in at the end of the story with the beginning. I didn't meet you all in 2019, 2020, thank God, or else I wouldn't be talking to y'all. Like, because that's what we had to unwind from, because that's what they're trying to set it up now. So a lot of, most of y'all, I mean, y'all are doing this. Like, this is why I stopped everything for that 3 months and went into just writing charts.
Yep.
Because what we did when I sat there and I all those charts, for whatever reason, I had to do in Microsoft. I hadn't done charts. Normally I've done them on an iPad and I have a little keyboard and I do it that way. But for whatever reason, now y'all's charts were done in Apple. Those first 3 that I did those in Apple. But then it was like shortly after that, maybe 1 or 2 more, then I had to get on the computer, and then I had to push all that in. Well, I'm writing it. And this is one of the abilities.
Yeah.
One of the main abilities that was kept from the human race, that because they were utilizing it and basically utilizing our power to overwrite. But when you write it, it comes true.
Especially with the keypad.
No, just period.
Just period.
I mean, this is Ron Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, he's one of us. One of my old people. I wouldn't say he's from that. He has that ability. So when he wrote all that Scientology stuff, it came true.
Right.
That was he wrote it. It happened. I just saw a thing about with NASA, and they were talking about all the people from NASA read that Leave the World Behind book. And it was a guy from NASA saying, look, I don't know. I think it's all BS. I just know they were all reading that book. Well, who wrote the book? And if they're all reading it, then that's that they're writing that. Yeah. That's why the book that you've seen.
Yes.
That I wrote about CoHue32 and the lessons and everything, which goes into a lot more detail about the history of all and the history of the stars a little bit. It goes into more history stuff, but then especially it goes into what the lessons are that that you're having to prove so that you can balance the energy so you can get the superpower, because that's all it is. They want to keep you unbalanced so you can't get your gifts so that they can take them. But when I wrote that book, like I had to stop. That's why I haven't gone back to finish writing it, because
Yeah.
I wrote it, and then when I started breaking down Lyra 1, Lyra 2, Lyra 3, because I'd wrote it all, I'd done Lyra, and then I had to go start breaking them down. Well, then I literally was having like vegan Anunnaki people show up in 29 palms messing with me when I'm sitting there watching, typing, and writing about Vega.
Interesting.
So it anyway, whatever we got. So what I was talking about was when I wrote y'all's charts, because I wasn't just, and this is how you know it's divine, and this is how they know we're divine, because I didn't go out and go, okay, all I said was everybody get your charts, get them if you want to. You guys came in, then you're like, holy crap, there's something to this. You guys need to come out, everybody get a chart, get a chart, get a chart. And so what happened was y'all were coming in at the exact time that pretty much 90% of the charts I did, like you had moon on Venus or Venus on Venus, and I was like having to read it. That's why I had to be done with it, because it's like I was having to wait 2 and 3 days, because I knew the chart that I hadn't even looked at y'all's charts, because I wouldn't even pull them up and look at them until I knew, okay, now. And then I go pull it up and I'm like, oh my God, this one links into the one that just happened. And I just explained it right here. And this is the other piece of it. And then, so all of y'all, it's like y'all came in exactly on cue, and I'm writing the story. That's what story we're in. That's the divine timeline.
It's beautiful. It's profound. And, it's like, the more I keep doing, studying about the astronomy and understanding Lyra and understanding Cygnus and how all that comes together and what all connects with it, especially since they have the etymology on the constellation of words. That when you get there and you really, and me being in the medical field, just really connects to understanding that the Lyra is the throat. It is in just the way that it's shaped, and then looking at the etymology and everything that corresponds and connects with understanding that even liar, it's just hard to say.
Right.
Is also extended into lie. So it's one of those that when you're actually getting back to the root of what everything stands for, its significance. That down here, the stars are the form in its own right, in its own way, in how it interacts in what it is capable of doing through its ability to connect with every organ and know that sequence and how all that works. Because our etymology, even when we go back to etymology would tell you that everything that's been created has been created due and because of the form. And it tells you this. And so it's like, it's profound to me that I feel like I've gotten to that origin and that root of the understanding on that micro level. And now I'm beginning to connect with that macro level through the astronomy of understanding each of these constellations and even going beyond that. So it's profound to me. And it's been, it can be agitating and aggravating sometimes, because you're like, oh, there's something I'm missing. I know there's more to this, but there's always going to be more, because
Look, it's
so
simple.
vast.
It really, the problem is it's simple.
Yeah. And it is. Once you get to that simpleness.
No.
Okay. For me, sometimes it's that way.
No, just listen to what I'm telling you. Listen. The problem is it's simple. Our brains and the way that they set everything up made it so hard.
Made it complex.
So you're trying, and it's whenever you just said it, like Lyra and it being lie, like raw lie, like raw lies. Well, whenever you really whenever you start realizing that we were a bunch of basically like this one's really hard. to grasp, but just hear me out. And I've talked about this before. We were stuck in the planet, and we had to manifest a way to get out. Nobody is gonna let us out. Now I'm talking about millions of years. We are sending out the consciousness. So we for those of us that were inside the planet, like even the wheel and the house signs,
Mm-hmm.
they were made from like a 5-year-old. Because in inner earth and in that energy, you have to think. This is why you have to think like a child, because a child made it. Because there was a child trapped in the planet, and the child only knows how to communicate through mathematics and phonetics, because the child made the phonetics. And we've talked about that. Like it took a long time to get A and C and B, and those energies didn't just appear here. We created them. So whenever you start at Aries and it's God, I need to look at the wheel. Aries, Taurus. I need to look at the wheel. Like this is it.
Gemini? No. Yeah, I have to look at the wheel.
Taurus, Gemini.
Gemini. Yeah, I remember this one.
Gemini can see her. Virgo. There she goes. Lips raw. Phonetic speech. Speakers in Libra. So Libra is lips raw. She has the lips of Ra. She has the voice of Ra. S Corp IO. IO S Corp. So they're chasing us. S Corp IO. Cap Ra Corn.
Saggy. After Scorpio.
Aqua are us.
Okay.
Princess. And literally, that is how it happened.
So it is very simple.
It's very simple. Like
It's
y'all.
Now
The
is that
dead
like
taught me this.
is this like understanding Latin and how they used the hexameters? Because a hexameter is a foot, and hexameters, the way that they used to express themselves was through poetry. It was a poetic way that Latin would use tones within a foot, where you would have specific like da da and then another one
Da 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 da.
making sense.
Welcome to romance.
Now it's making sense, and now you're making that connection for people to understand the truth of music
And color.
Yep. It's
if when you when I first of all, my first thing that I had to do was just learn basic numerology.
Okay.
And I didn't know that. So I kind of had to teach myself basic numerology. Well, basic numerology, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, not the Jewish crazy crap. The Jewish crazy crap is linked into science. Right. So the Jews' gematria is linked into science. So it's not necessarily calling a tone, it's calling a lab result.
It's a class. It's a classic. It's a classical.
It's calling a lab result.
Lab result.
That's why they'll say, yeah, the 3 left the building. Everything was 12 and 21. Well, 12 does not have the same power as 3.
Right.
If I bring in a 3, boom, that's a 3. 12 is like
right.
21 is like, I'm gonna hold it in.
Gotcha.
And then I'm gonna bring the 3. Boom. Okay. So that's the same thing, but that's why you want to break it down 12, 3, whatever. So the basic thing is in numerology 1 through 9. So whenever that's the 33 phonetic, all the 33 crap, all the equator crap, all their original masonry
Yeah.
that went into the Jewish, that went into the 44, that went into all but the groundwork is A1, B2. So whenever I started learning this, when they were teaching me, because when I say them, I'm the dead. So these are my ancestors. I'm catching the messages. The messages are coming in. It's 2018, 2019, and all this stuff was starting to happen and connect, and I was picking it up. Well, they were trying to communicate with me. So the first way that I learned to communicate with them was through the 33. And so I'd be sitting in my room and I'd hear, look to your right. And I'd go, okay, technology. Look to your left. Scarf. No, that's not what they wanted me to hear. Okay, look to your left. What do you see? Gray. Okay, gray technology. Write it down. So this is why this is like all my books that I have that I know eventually will be just published the way they are. Because I mean, you'll be able to buy volumes of these because we'll just publish the book the way it is, because it's literally was coming undone from the stars, us lining it up, and it's because it built year after year after year. So I would write down gray technology and I 33 decode it, and then that would give me a number sequence, and then we'd go again. There'd be another one. Now realize the whole time I was doing that, what I was doing was writing a new program.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then when I'm capturing all of that, so then it got to where, especially in that one book, which I have actually just have right here. Like if you look whenever this physics came in, which is how we ended up getting into the realm, because it's galaxies. By the way, whenever you were talking just a minute ago about the connections and everything, I was seeing a massive black hole open up in I guess you'd call it a stellar galaxy.
It doesn't surprise me after something that I saw today when I was standing out in the sun and I closed my eyes. I was going through a portal, but what was
Well, I
amazing
just
was,
saw it open up.
well, what was amazing was there was this black donut that was ahead of me as I was going through the portal. But it was one of those. It was a black donut that you could see stars within it.
Crypto donuts. We just won the scavengers hunt.
So it was like
The crypto CIA donuts. You know
I
what
know
I'm
what
talking
you're
about?
talking about. It somewhat. It's been a
There's a
while since.
donut shop in the CIA in Lanley.
Oh,
I
really?
just learned this last night. And they have powdered donuts. And for some reason throughout this, especially when I was on long haul missions, man, I'm like nom 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 on some powdered donuts driving at like 4 o'clock. That and Milano cookies. I was like, I had a thing with Milano. And I think it ended up that Milano, actually Alyssa Milano ended up
Mm-hmm.
helping us get away from the Epstein thing in the middle of it with what she would, because she was going to war with him. But anyway,
Interesting.
well, the powdered donuts, it's called crypto donuts because it's in front of where that, over there they've got that crypto statue that there's supposedly no one's ever solved it or whatever. Okay, well, whatever. You can only get crypto donuts if you're in the CIA because you can't get in the building.
Of course.
So it's like this whole scavenger hunt thing that they do in DC and stuff with interns and everything. And basically it makes them network in the town to learn how to manipulate people and schmooze people in DC. So because one of the things on the scavenger hunt is that they've got to get a CIA agent to buy them a thing of donuts.
Wow, that's interesting because they have those games for the kids that used to go around and do scavenger hunts, and they would leave stuff, or you could actually do that with coins. That no matter where you're traveling, you could hit this thing and be able to hit coins. I'm like, I knew there was something to it, but I seen the ridiculousness in it too. But
I mean the coins. And when I was in Monterey, California, during 2020. There were certain Indian convenience stores that were paying homeless people a beer if they brought in a coin earlier than 1960 something. And certain, like, because a coin from like 1920 or whatever is not going to show up to just anybody.
Right.
Like your energy is calling in the money. So this was in 2020 when they really were like the printing, because we hadn't connected anything. They had run out of gold. They had run out of silver. They'd run, like, they really couldn't even print any more coins. But they were having the homeless, because they knew a lot of the homeless people. And the girl that told me this, she was like, man, I was finding them like crazy. And I'm like, yeah, because you're in 2020. It's a wide open field. And evidently, that's what you're calling in. But even those coins and those dates, your energy is magnetizing into your field.
Fascinating. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that because it is about the intention and focus. And because you said this isn't a wide open field, man, it does seem as though that connection can be a lot quicker and sooner and easier to have that intention and that focus on what is before you as a game or something like that.
Well, that's what ascension is. It's a giant freaking scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
It's what masonry is.
It just takes me to the movie National Treasure.
Right. But it's way more interesting than that. I mean, that's what's so insane. Like, they would have never been able to stop us from getting these movies out and getting all this stuff out. And because we're solving all of it. Like, this is that time. This is why I know that it's hard to believe, but you won the lottery to be here. And I know that it's really hard to believe that you're special because you're on Earth right now with all the crazy crap that's going on. But you won the lottery to come here and play the scavenger hunt for your lines. That's why you're here. You're here because you've got treasure boxes all in your line. Now, when the Masons were using us, handling us, keeping us hidden, the only reason we were hidden from who we were and hidden from, a lot of us adopted and is because they didn't want them to know that we were in their family lines.
Right.
Because they wanted us to, because when you activate, if you're in the line and you're in the lead, energetically, then you're the one that's going to find all the treasure chests. So gotcha. That's why they manage, and then you find the treasure chest, like, because here's the thing though, you don't just walk and find the treasure. I wish it was like that. It ends up being like that, but it's a year. It's a long process. Like right. all this stuff that happened in 2017, well, the book was written in 2018, and here we are 2025, and it's finally kicked in.
Right.
It took 7 years. But literally our CoHue32 rainbow is going to lead us to the pot of gold. We're still there. It's only been, this is why all of us were 10 years in advance. And gotcha. We were talking about that right before we came on, because even with CoHue32 right now, and this is how you can help me, all of y'all, this is how you can help me, is my whole life, okay, I've been at least 10 years in advance. So what that means, like all the fashion, the hair, that's what started talking about this, the hair and the Jessica Simpson hairdo. And I was wearing all this crazy hair, and I was like the first TikTok girl out in Dallas, Texas in like 2006. And they thought I was nuts because nobody else was doing it. Well, I was. It's who I was. Now here we are 20 years later, and the whole world's doing it. Well, it's been long enough now that I'm kind of like, okay, cool. I'll play with it again, But whenever you've been doing something for 10 years and then everybody finally catches up and you're sick of it.
Right.
You want something new. Well, right. That was Star Crew's issue. We and this is why they did it that way. Because by the time it got 10 years in advance, all of us are on doing other things, and then you can't even. It was really hard to fathom that we created entire industries, entire lines, entire corporations, entire cities, entire countries, from 10 years ago, because we'd already been there, done that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
yeah.
I have a couple of questions here. So it's
Yeah.
Yeah, Shay has one of his question. I found a pre-World War II war something coin.
Mm-hmm.
What is my connection to that time in the Black Forest?
Well,
Oh, I guess if she meant war Nazi coin. I don't know.
first of all, the World War II coin, like, when did it show up? What day did it show up? If you remember when it showed up, then I would go look at the chart for that day, like pull up your chart and pull it up for that day and just kind of see what's lined up or what's hidden.
Okay.
So it's also with that specifically, because for 4 or 5 years we've been, and I just said this on TikTok the other day, throwing money in different lawns, different buildings, different, with intention, in order to stay connected, to clear it, whatever.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's a coin that came in, it is almost like it was thrown into it by maybe one of these coin tosses that one of us had done. First of all. Second
Okay.
of all, the what did she call it? The Black Forest?
Yeah. Yes.
Because of where Shay is in the Appalachians.
Yep.
And I mean, this is even when I did her chart. It's like, because it's such a powerful field, because it's like she was holding down such a powerful field. I would consider that the Black Forest in what she just came out of, because it's like the whole field was, it was almost like a dome over a bunch of magic.
Yeah.
Even root magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would call it. It also brings up the whole thing that, and the experience that I had with saving that little boy. I've talked about it a gazillion times. It was 2018. It was North Carolina. That little boy went missing. They ended up finding him, but I was saving him in the consciousness, and I knew we got him to run. Like, in my world, he was in a boat. He was in the hull. There were two men in a fishing shack, and I didn't even know that's what it was until I started describing what I was seeing to the other AB negative, Amanda, that was on this thing with me. And she's like, "Oh, those are gutting knives. They're like fishing knives that were all in that little thing." But I was also dealing with a witch doctor. So in those woods, which I'd consider the Black Forest, right? When I was there getting that boy free, and had eyes on those dudes, she appeared. That witch doctor. And it was feminine, because it was like a monitoring spirit. So it's like any type of change or any type of light that was coming in, and so I immediately saw her and had to deal with her. And then in my world, I was in the little boy's ear, because he's freaking out and he's down there by himself. And what I did in the consciousness was basically get those boys busy over here, paying attention to something else. And then I jumped in the hall with them, and I was like, "Run, run, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it." And in my world, he opened up the latch. Oh my gosh. And I just said this on TikTok about the voodoo doll that they had I'm just now realizing that might even be attached, because it was a voodoo doll that was underneath a marriage bed, underneath the floor of a wood. So I just saw, anyway, I had him jump out of the hatch, jump overboard. And I even drew it in the book where he washed up. Cause I was telling her, get the police, go to here it is. Here's the cove. I don't know what I'm seeing. You know the land. And then, come to find out, they found him in the hole of a tree, a hole that was in the ground where the root system was, and he was hiding in that tree. And I was waiting to hear what he saw, because I knew that he saw me. And he described me as a big bear. I was thinking it was going to be like an angel or no. I was like,
And that's amazing that you say that, because I've heard so many stories where people were like, the stories, you know, because especially children, because their imagination is so vast that it may be the energy that really just shows itself to them as to, how powerful the energy may be. And so many people will talk, that so many of those stories go, oh, it was an angel, or oh, it was this, that, and it seems so. Now, in reality, when
well,
you're
in
really
2018, my energy was not clear. We hadn't got out yet. I wouldn't have been able to appear as an angel
right.
because I had all that body. I had all that. I came from the animal and the bees, right? I had all that
Mhm.
stuck on me. So it made sense whenever he said it. But I was like, then later on they started seeing me as, especially the children. Fernando had a little sister who we had to protect through all of this in Roblox. If you have children and they're on Roblox, get them off of it now. Yesterday, delete it. No Roblox. They do parties and anyway, we had to get her out of it. She saw people's etheric wings and bodies and everything. And she's like, oh, Chastia's got these big black wings. And I'm like, black? I, I want big, like, white angel wings. Everybody's scared of the big black wings. If they see the big black wings, they're gonna run. But
Right.
this is where you have to be super duper duper careful with, and let me tell you, this is how they were getting away with this, is because they had everybody convinced, and especially those of us who had these gifts and abilities, and because only we're the only ones that can bind each other. They didn't bind us. They used y'all to do it.
Right.
So especially the ones who have family in the industry, or they come from bloodlines in the industry, because they're so conscious and they have such a wide third eye in this middle layer. It's not the highest and it's not the lowest. It's kind of because everything was getting switched in this Masonic layer. So the family lines that have a lot of that are lucid dreamers, big time.
Right.
So whenever they're dreaming, they're shadow walking, because
Gotcha.
they're either, basically the whole process of being cooked in the industry makes you a shadow walker. Okay. So
Right.
but in the shadow walker, like, they got Courtenay to bind me, and because she thought I was a demon. So since she only could, because if you're running out of the bottom, if you're clearing everyone's crap, and you've got to get from here to here, and you're getting, you're getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, but you're clearing everyone's stuff, and then they're stuck in the middle, and then you mirror them. Well, they're the demon. They're the one that's stuck in the middle. So
Right.
they're gonna see you as a demon, and then they're like, okay, tie her up. And so
Right.
so
Man.
so
Okay.
Courtenay is like, I tied up a demon in the ethers last night, and this is when she was here and sleeping right there in that room. And I was like, say what? Right?
Right.
But we're the only, no, they didn't have any abilities.
Right. Right. No, that's interesting. You convey it that way, because I can hear what you're saying, because a lot of times, a lot of is that they don't understand the reflection, that when
Right.
they see something outside, what seems to be outside them, they forget that this is a mirroring experience, because we're in a
Well,
dual reality.
and they had codes, they had knowledge, they had abilities that no one else did, that didn't make any common sense. That's why they have no common sense, but they're
Right.
geniuses at the weirdest crap.
Right. No,
Like
I
like
hear what you're saying.
if you need to name a phonetic, like, something, call one of them,
Hmm?
because, like, JM is a genius with this crap, but no common sense. because he basically had to learn to delete common sense in order to make that magic work. Does that make sense?
It's interesting.
I mean, because this is also a little bit where we need to kind of learn a lesson from it, and but be conscious about it, because we can accidentally make so many more steps for ourselves by thinking that we've got to do the steps. So if you have it in your head that you have to get a college degree in order to become anything, then you will have to get a college degree to become it.
Right.
It's much easier to forget the logic and the common sense. And because then if you're stealing DNA lines, because this is what they were doing, the reason that they were stealing it was because you went to college. So they want that so they can jump to here. So they're not even going to ever think that they've got to do these steps. They just flip into it. So there is a mastery to it. But since it's only been done like that for 600 years, and then you come along and you're like, okay, this is where the true energies come from, and I'm going to take you down. And they're like, okay. I don't, because they won't believe it. They're a special kind of stupid.
Right. And it's because they lack the common sense. Because
they only trust the other ones that are gypsies and thieves like them, because it's in their same energy. So that's like they literally own, because they're mirroring themselves. So they end up trusting all the wrong people.
Gotcha.
In a flip, because they're all thieves. So they totally don't even recognize truth.
Interesting.
And this was the masculine problem down here. Just period, dot. I mean, across the board.
All right. Well, here's another question. What is M1 sun, and why is it named M?
I'd have to get I don't have all those memorized, y'all. It's Messier.
Yeah.
It's Messier. It's Messier. So then that's how you look it up. Because if you look up M1, you're not going to find it. Give me a second. Messier 1. It's the Crab Nebula. It's Cancer. Actually makes sense.
Yep.
Even on the House of CoHue, if y'all go look at Cancer on House of CoHue on the website.
Yep.
It's one pastel Fibonacci swirl. So it's the Crab Nebula. NGC 1952. That's interesting, because 1952 is the year that we all undid over here. 1952 was like highlighted in all y'all's charts. They call it Taurus A. So I'm sure it ended up being Sirius A. Basically. Because you got people look at the wheel and you look at astronomy and you think it's flat.
Yes.
And it's the furthest from flat. It's easy. You think that if I put a star right here and then I put a star right here, because this is how in a 2D, one's here and one's here, but one's 10,000 light years away and one's 1,000,000 light years away. And then everything that's in between that is what you'd consider time.
Hence the reason why it seems flat. Because
Right.
it's stretched.
Right. So it's a supernova remnant. And what It's a supernova remnant of pulsar wind nebula in the constellation of Taurus. The common name comes from drawing that somewhat resembled a crab with arms. The nebula was discovered by English astronomer Beavis.
Beavis and
Literally.
Butthead, anybody?
John Beavis. Like Beavis and Butthead. I need TP for my bunghole.
This is exactly what came to my mind whenever you said Beavis. I was like, oh, it was immediately Beavis and Butthead.
In 1731. So it's probably the start of the toroidal field. Because then basically it's in Taurus because it's the toroidal field that's Earth. But it would be called the Crab Nebula because, I mean, you can't. Whenever we change 0 to 3 degrees of Aries, we change 0 to 3 degrees of Aries of every house. Whenever they carved up 5 to 9 Virgo, then it changed 5 to 9 in every house. You can't change one in one and it not change the other because the way it's stacked.
Gotcha.
So don't let and I'll remind everybody that Aries used to be in the 5th house and Leo used to be in the 1st house. So
yeah, because his heart.
In 1731, the Crab Nebula was in Taurus. There wasn't even Cancer. And in fact, we probably didn't even have Cancer.
Well, even whenever I'm doing the research and I'm reading through the constellations and stuff and everything, when we go to like Ptolemy and, the ones that were, doing all this research of the sky and stuff and just bringing in that and seeing how it kept getting either added to or changed or shifted. It was just fascinating how I see how much of it gets altered over time. And, whenever I was, you had done a YouTube on this before and it just wasn't clicking at the time. But the other day it came through because of something else I was doing research on. And I think it was in Ophiuchus 1. I was looking at Ophiuchus and it brought up, after doing some, just getting the general ideas and understandings of certain things, it brought up the Orphanum wheel. And you had covered that in your YouTube before. The one that was pink. It's the atom.
Yeah, with all the colors.
Yeah, it was
right.
The eye. Yeah, the eye in the center. But whenever I looked up, just old images of the Orphanum wheel, it shows that there are eyes all over what seems to be, man, what are those things called that people can get in and, they hold them like this in a way, but you're spinning in just different directions.
Yeah.
But you're the center of all of it.
Right.
And whenever I was looking at that and I seen the eyes, I was like, are these the eyes of the ancestors? Are these just the eyes that you utilize to be able to see in every direction, as you're going through this journey? That the Orphanum wheel is your toroidal field.
Yes. And it has eyes in it because all of us ancestors actually sacrificed ourselves to come back in as the wheel.
Gotcha.
I mean, we weren't just beings. See, that's what everybody needs to realize. Like this is why you can't outland me.
Right.
This is why as soon as you realize this, then your power elevates. Because you weren't just human. When I first woke up and the Indian people were around me and they were all telling me, oh, you're gonna have just wait till you start undoing this, and animals and people are trees and animals are different people and da da da, and I was like, that's impossible. That's impossible. Well, boy, I was wrong. Now it isn't supposed to be possible. It was made possible, but even then that's when all this stuff came in, even with the trees, because the trees is the Toltec Indians. They came and told the people, look, we're gonna start dying. Wherever we die, bury us right there, don't move us. And they had to make a deal with the Indian people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Then they all started dying. then they have that's where the tall trees come from in Arkansas. Those original tall trees and all that. That was the Toltec. That was the Bow tribe. That was the end of the 1800s, the Black Plague, all of that. Well, the Toltec were leaving because they couldn't hold form anymore. Now the Toltec became the trees. And then in that Bow tribe, double simians, which is whenever you have one line from here to here, which is basically a gin. It would be called a gin. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's the sun and the moon's an AB negative frequency, but a bodysuit that's holding the sun and the moon. Because you're literally the sun and the moon when you're a jinn. That's why jinn can do magic.
Right.
Because they can bring in the sun and make it the moon at the same time, and boom, there it was in the physical, right?
Yeah.
But that's how, I mean, the eyes and the wheel and the ground and the land and, you know, all of it. What I wanted, this Crab Nebula is also called a guest star. And it's, let me hold on. Saturn moon's called the guest star. And then it corresponds with a bright supernova observed from 1054 CE.
1054 CE.
It was the first astronomical object identified that corresponds with a historically observed supernova explosion. I mean, Betelgeuse went supernova. We all died. And the gases and everything that came out of that supernova is what we've been cleaning up. That's why the human race had to go in a wheel.
Interesting.
Right. And so that toroidal field, you know, is being made this whole time. All of this was being made this whole time. You know, we've been making it periods and periods at a time.
You know, it's fascinating because when we went over, I can't remember which island it was, but we was going. T and I went over there to do some work for a client of hers, and they're on this land. And so I was walking a little bit of this land because, you know, we're in the rainforest, so there's a lot of moss. And as I was down there and I was just looking around, I was like on this kind of like mound part, and there's a lot of Indian energy there.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was standing there, I looked down at this tree where there's a rock, and there was this leaf, and it was in this shape of a swan. And so, you know, a name came through, and it was a feminine Indian girl that was coming through with that. And it was like, it's just so fascinating because at night when I go outside and it's the moon, it's almost like, it's kind of hard to describe, but it seems like I'm on a movie set. The trees aren't real to me. They have almost like, they're just backprops to me.
Right.
And so, you know, it's fascinating because it's like, it's hard for the mind to wrap itself around that understanding that this isn't the reality that it was taught, that it was manipulated into believing.
Well, we're having to recreate it. It's not that it wasn't here.
Right. No, because when I was a kid, I knew there was life here.
There was trees here. There was, but I mean, like, for instance, in 2018, before everything really went crazy in the industry, it's like I had to be in the redwoods. So I was in the redwoods in Port Arena, which is like right underneath Eureka in California, with like the deep redwoods.
Yeah.
And oh God, I just lost my train of thought.
It happens.
What were we talking about? Because then I was thinking about Brenda. Then I mean, even when I did Brenda's chart, because when I met Brenda, I did Brenda's chart, but it was the first time, and it's only happened one other time. When I went to go pull her chart, and this is 2018, before we had CoHue32 or anything. When I went to go pull her chart, I immediately heard Deborah in my head. And I was like, who the F balls is Deborah? And I literally I channeled another birthday, and I had to pull up Deborah's chart and then do Brenda. So then I go meet Brenda, and I'm staying with her, and we're right there. And that's where that connection is. And then she was even her like meeting her husband and that whole story there. Now her son was 20 something, and he reminded me of Jax Teller from Sam Crow.
Yeah.
And it was all kind of involved even in THC in the weed industry, just because Brenda got involved growing weed because she was so organic, and this woman was going to help her sell it and do all this stuff. And then so she's growing it, and it was a specific blue strand. And when she was growing this blue strand, she was purposely, because she was one of us, like almost like a pure mermaid energy. Her energy field was almost like a pure, like like you'd mirror her. When I first met her, I thought that she was the queen of Atlantis, because I was talking to her, and she literally turned into it right in front of me. Then like 2 hours later, when we were walking before we found the Druid temple on her land,
Wow.
she was walking beside me, and she had this little bitty hat on, and she had this little bitty sweater on, and the way she was walking, I was like, this is freaking Queen Elizabeth. Like, what the hell? She was turning into other people right in front of me, but now I know it was we were both doing it. Like, she was channeling me, and I was switching her, and this is how pure she was. So she was putting consciousness in the plant. And I think this is even the blue pill. I think this is even where, if you go and you look at research on JFK and the blue pills that he was taking, and blah, 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 and there was this whole thing about this blue strain of weed. Let me tell you. Well, she grew,
Wow.
she's one of us. So organically, man, she got so much that she didn't know what to do with. Then mysteriously, the lady disappears from the deal. Now she's got all these seeds. So she lets her son, mistake. She lets her son go deal with it. Well, he ends up dying. He ends up getting killed over it. And it had only been like a year since he had passed. And when I got into the Redwoods, because I had driven, I was in Vallejo, and then I drove there, and the drive there is insane, because it's like a snake road. And when I got into the Redwoods, I had no phone service, because you're in the Redwoods, right? And it's pitch dark. It's like 2:00 in the morning. And I'm starting to panic, because I didn't have GPS. I didn't know where I was, right? My phone wasn't working. And then all of a sudden I hear, pull over right now. So I'm like, okay. So I pull over right now. And then I hear, look to your left. Well, there it was. That was a house. I go knock on the door, and Brenda answers the door, and she's like, you're the only one that's ever found this house at night. And I said, your son showed me.
It's amazing, because when you was talking about that, and Mexico immediately came through for that, about his death. Mexico.
Wow. That actually, yeah.
Immediately came through whenever you said that.
Now, the reason I even already started talking about this is because after this happened and everything, in Brenda's family, it was a lot to do with Chase Mortgage, even how she met her husband. I mean, it basically, when they told me about it, I was like, this is the Overboard movie. The dogs that she had were Bill and Ted, but she didn't know who Bill and Ted were.
Oh no.
It's like literally everything around her there was like old 80s pop crap, but she was older. Right. So she didn't even like realize, she wasn't into that pop stuff. She was a little bit older. Well, I knew that after that the reason that she was in the Redwoods is because we needed her staring at those trees constantly, so that they would still be some. In the in-between energies that we were switching, because we're switching out of a simulation into a dimension. Wherever the humans are, that's where Earth is.
Which is fascinating, because it's almost like you speaking to that is saying that it was a way to keep man, and I just lost my train of thought. To keep that connection that they created those cells there for, because something has to stay here organic. There has to be something organic about what
We
we're experiencing.
needed, well, we're creating the organic again because it hasn't been, there isn't organic fully yet in this frequency.
Okay.
Wherever the human race is that came from Earth will print. Earth appears where the human race is because Earth is in your DNA. You're
Right.
from Earth. I don't care what energy that you are. I don't care what even if you are an alien and you came in and then got in a human suit. Okay, well now you can't go back home. You're in a human suit. Home is never home, according to all these alien things that are like, we're going to go home. Whenever they say that, I'm like, where are you going to go? There's nothing out there. Everything exploded out in this space, whatever. There's no space. Where are you going to go? You're in a human suit now. And so
Right.
you have Earth in your suit. So wherever we are as a human race, as long as that Earth DNA is intact, then we're going to print Earth. This is why they wanted Gaia. This is why they came in and popped me out of the planet. This is how we ended up in an artificial everything, because Gaia and our feminine energy can make plastic. We make everything.
Right.
But you're either going to make it organic or you're going to make it artificial. Well, if you take Gaia, saw her in half, turn her wrong side out, and have her stare at space instead of the human race, then guess what you're going to get? A whole bunch of aliens, a whole bunch of ship, and a whole bunch of artificial stuff.
And you know, we've had this conversation. This conversation we've had before, and you know, whether it's here or it was another time, or you know, it's you know, beyond, you know, when we're doing our travels, it's like, and it's like, to me, on this, just even right here, it's like, I know this conversation. I've had this conversation. My mind's going, but what the heck does it mean?
Well, because the 5 spheres came together. So basically because this is what the Venus transits were.
Okay.
So, and this is how the 5 spheres, because if you've got the Earth, and then we call them the archangels, right?
Right.
And so you've got
The
one
X.
here, one here, one here, one here, and then the Earth, right? But each this is why Venus is going to stare this direction for a while. It's going to print all that and make that. Then we're going to stare at this for a while. It's going to print all that and make that. So this is even how these different manifestations of alien races and all even came to pass, is because as a human race, when they're spinning the G, whenever they're like, okay, now this is this way, and now you're going to face, because I was baptized in the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, mind you, I was in the middle of all of it since the beginning. So, like, my whole life has been around everything that was doing this to us, and the main ones, basically. And so on Martha's side, that's Gough, that's Goff. Well, Goff is the remnant Mormon line, basically made from all the ecliptic babies, kind of, like, in a weird way. Time travel babies, anybody that ever was in a sacrifice to Earth, or any of the pagan stuff, all of it. Now, Gough Peninsula is the waterway between the United States and Africa, if you go look
Right.
it up. When so they baptized us at 8. So on the baptismal, it says remembrance of Jesus Christ. Because everything with them, this wasn't a Mormon, it was reorganized Mormons. It was the remnants. We were the remnant Mormons. So this is the remnant stars. This is why the remnant Mormons had all of the archives, because it was all geology and rocks and but they also had all the human DNA and the real Mary Magdalene. They knew who was the real Joshua. They knew who was the real John Baptiste, at least enough in the family lines, because they were all in the church. Because they were all being manifest. Okay, right.
Right.
when I got baptized, of course, I didn't remember this when I was 8. And now I got baptized at 8. Then 3 years later, then this is when, and my migraine started really bad at 9.
Yeah.
And then they progressed, and then at 11, now we're freaking out because I'm having to get rushed to the emergency room like once a week because the pain was so bad. And so that's how I ended up getting led to the Nazi underneath Texas A&M. And then they put those needles in my neck. They set me in a chair. They had these needles that were like this long, and they just like Frankenstein. They had an 11-year-old in a chair. They put these needles, and then they had these huge vats of some type of serum. I have no idea. And then as soon as they got done doing that, they put me in the hypo chamber and started dropping me 45 feet below sea level. And basically it was straight up Legacy. If you watch the Legacies on Netflix, whenever she goes in to meet her dad, which is like the goo man or whatever, and she goes in that all black room and she's in like the goo, basically, kind of like what you'd consider tar. That's what it felt like, and that's what they were doing when I was dropping down there. Now, I'm saying all that because it ended up happening 3 years later. When I activated and started coming out of all this, I remembered as soon as I went underneath the water. Now, this was my grandfather, so this was Malcolm, whatever, and I was always written to bring it down, and I was always hidden in that line as Christ, because I was Christ in. And as soon as I went under, there was an alien right here. Like this, like it was it manifested that way. It was an entity, like a big entity's head. And he goes, "Princess." And when I looked, he locked my head. And my head didn't move. My head was locked. Whenever I went under in the spirit, wherever I was, then I ended up getting locked. 3 years later, ended up getting needled. 3 years later, right? But I was Arcturus, and all that is the brain. It's what we were doing down here. And it's even why I have makeup on, but I had an implant here and an implant here and an implant that's scarred. And so it's literally the implants ended up holding my head, my etheric head, in one position, and that's spinning the G. Because all of y'all are hooked into me. Because I'm the compass. I'm the astronomist. I'm the crazy chick on the boat. Like, if all y'all are on the boat, I'm the boat. And I'm the woman on the front of the boat.
Just makes me think of the Black Pearl.
All of y'all are on the boat. You don't know I'm on the boat because I am the boat. See, this was always the problem.
It's like we were on the Black Pearl.
Nobody wanted to listen to the boat. So anyway.
Right.
Now I know that's what happened. And it obviously was the intention. But also, this is that whole thing with that whole missing stuff in the Bible that has to do with all the aliens. And even over whenever you talk to I forgot who gave all these predictions and blah blah blah, but that was telling like a group a long time ago, first you're gonna have this, then you're gonna have, and then the last one's gonna be aliens.
Right.
And like 20 or 30 years ago, we were all like, what? But that is because that's how far out we were separated. The alien piece was the last one that actually was bringing those 5 spheres of existence all lined up together. And what we've been doing for the past 4 years is they've got their history, they've got their history, they've got their history, they've got their history. They think theirs is the only history. They think theirs is the only history. They think theirs is the only history. And they think theirs is the only history. But they all were happening at the same time.
Right, because everything happens simultaneously at the exact same time.
Right. And some of the beings down here would started some of it, and they're the ones that should be known as the start of some of it. And these guys, some of them because it would jump, you got a character here, a character here, a character here, a character here, but each one of these main characters is going to think that they're the king of the character. Whenever you're in the middle, we're projecting all 4 of y'all. There's only one in the middle. So there's 5 of us, dude. Not king of that castle, king of that castle, king.
Right.
And that's the merger of spheres. That's
That just makes, and that just comes up with the 6 points, or yeah, it's almost like the 6 points, because we are the center, and then you have the
right.
6 points that correspond with the planets, the energies, whatever it is, the archetypes, the whatever it is that you correlate or correspond with, the understanding that these are energies, and it's understanding those energies so you know what it is that's coming through, or what it is that they're wanting to be projected. But for every story I've ever read, it's the exact same story, just told in a different way. That's it.
Right. But then everyone thinks that, then each one thinks it's the only story. So
Right.
what we've just been having to do is merge. And the truth is, this was built from this, was built from this, was built from this. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But you're also not the first, and you're not the only.
Right.
And so all of those timelines have had to come in, and then to make matters more difficult, the wheel in and of itself was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that mirrored.
Right. So if we didn't have enough else going on.
Because I mean,
it.
you got two, this is what divine union is. This is what the true twins are.
Gotcha.
The true twins are each one of us. The two twins, we're the center. We got that crew, we got that crew, we got that crew, we got that crew. Some of it I'm the originator of, some of it he's the originator of, but it's a mirrored dimension. But each one of us got 4 attached to us that we're trying to figure it out in the middle of it as well. It's all coming to us. And if we have to figure it out because we're having to mirror in the twin, so our information going back and forth, is what broke the handler system in Hollywood from one side. And then the other side, it broke the monarchy. And I've never even met him. Who will end up being the one that comes in first? I don't know. That's all up to that DNA line. And because it doesn't matter. You could be written to be whatever you want. I mean, you can say that you're the king of Sheba. But if you say that you are, then you're going to have to go against Sheba. If you can hold it and you can, then okay, then that's who you are. But you have to prove it. I know we're not doing good watching the questions.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a problem. We got one right here. It's, why do I feel like I've known Max Spears from another life?
I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
Well, Britney Spears, I mean, spear, just any type of spear. Because spear would be that Disney Mickey Mouse template, because you have to, it took a long time and a lot of different DNA strands and a lot of hybridization to even get to a family line that is linked to Elvis and linked to Marilyn Monroe and linked to all that, because that's the line I come from. Because that's why you don't know who we are, but you know who Marilyn Monroe is and you know who Elvis is, right? So, but it took a long time to build up those templates. So, but Brittany is literally templated. I mean, this is going to sound egotistical, but it is just the damn truth. She's templated from me. Even in the middle when she was dating Kevin Fender, and she was the first one that, like, her life was public. Mine wasn't.
Right.
As soon as her life went public, it started affecting my life. So, and that was the first. It was the first one. Gwen Stefani ended up, and Jennifer Lopez ended up like messing with me too, in different ways. But with Britney, it was all 2002, and she was dating Kevin, and lo and behold, I end up with basically a Kevin Federline man. Like everything that was happening with her and Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. Like Kevin, because it was like Brittany and Kevin Fenderline and Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. They were running the same program. No matter, I had to date a dickhead, a rock star dickhead with a bunch of tattoos. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
because it makes it fascinating because Britney Spears was probably Britney Spears was the first one that anyone actually witnessed burn, or what you would say, cook, fry, because nobody could understand, well, what's going on with Britney Spears coming. She's got a hair shaved. She's she's been to court and all this. So yeah, I mean, I can see that because so much was starting to really show itself then. Because even I was like,
but see,
what's up with
but
that?
the difference with Brittany is she was made into that character, and she's like, she already had the energy. She didn't. Then whenever they started doing stuff to her and they diddied her, and then that's when she screwed up, and then she started doing altars, and then they got her involved because they started messing with her, so to force her to do magic.
Right,
But the magic that she was doing was calling in goddess energy, so basically what she was doing was recreating it, but that's why she got so altered.
right.
But that's why she also says that she's 5 years old, because her altar ran out. But in 2017, well, it's 2019. In 2019, when I was like December 2019, all of us that had completed 17 and 18, I mean, we were brand new. There's periods and times of this. Like, the one thing TikTok's helped me do is remember how to put on makeup and do my hair. Because, like, I was all into all that stuff, and then whenever I got activated and then I was reborn and all this stuff happened to us, and then I have all this knowledge of this and this and this and this, I literally had to retrain myself on how to do my makeup, how to do my hair. I'm still doing it. I'm still having to, like, retrain myself to do, like, normal, what you'd consider human things, because we really did, like, completely rebirth.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So here's another one. It's Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune literally spell out sun. Does that mean
Right.
we have the sun we see and the unseen sun?
Well, everything comes from the sun. The sun is source, but it's the Arcturus sun that's source. If you go look at how big Arcturus is massive, and it's over there in Libra, right? And
Mm-hmm.
these other suns line up over it in order to project only small amounts. That sun's this big. This sun's this big.
Right.
See, we're
Right. You
going,
were showing me that.
and that's why there's a whole bunch of suns between Arcturus. Each one is going to hold a different amount of source,
Gotcha.
whatever the human race can sustain. This is what we changed. This is why it's a solar ascension. But Venus really is the sun.
Yeah.
Venus, Venus.
Right.
So if you look at the chart, it's going to go Sun, Mars, Venus, and then Spica. And inside Spica is Moon, Pluto, Saturn.
Wow.
But they're all in the same energy of the 9 of the sun, because the planets do not appear until the human race loses consciousness. You don't need the planets when you're conscious. The planets are running backup tapes.
So yeah, okay.
I mean, Saturn and Venus are basically the same planet, except Saturn's the one, it's like they took dad. It's like we have an immortal father and he got kidnapped. And so it's like when they took him over there in order to build all that, then it was getting backed up on the tape. because he's still connected to everything else. But the human race, and this is where Mercury's getting smaller, Saturn's rings are disappearing. This is why we've already backed it all up. We've already ran it. The planets work together in a giant system in order to maneuver space for the human race to create your body, your brain, your heart, our hearts beat, fluids, all of it, all of it. But
And that's the reason why the sun does its trek through, and it's like a infinity, but one side of the infinity sign is a little smaller than the other as far as how it moves through the I guess you would say space. Even though it doesn't feel like sun moves, it has its own orbit. It just takes longer, correct?
it's a massive area of the cosmos that has to move to hold 8 billion hearts beating.
Okay.
It's beyond comprehension in the
Yeah.
human form of how much space has to and is involved in keeping that moving whenever the entire human race is not connected in their etheric body. That's what I mean by being unconscious. Everybody was in a simulation, and even the ones who were holding up the simulation didn't remember everybody was living on them.
Well, it's almost like its own level of life support in its own way.
It's what it was. That's why we did it. Because the human
Gotcha.
race was going into an area of space that if that energy would have, everybody would have been Pompeii. And it's probably what happened then.
Right.
which is why this is how we did it this time. So this is how RH became. This is where positives came in. We mixed with the monkey and mixed, like how do you, we basically had to put the human being back in an animal state.
Mhm.
And also because all of us that were the RH negatives, I mean, the only reason that we were even here is because of World War II.
Yeah.
I mean, we were made in World War II, basically.
Well, yeah, because my mom was RH negative.
But my point is the whole human race we had to make a blood, and then the positive, what it did is put you in an RH bubble. And that RH bubble is like having an astronaut helmet on. So
Okay.
that astronaut helmet, you're not breathing in space. All you're breathing is the air of the other RH, all the other positives in the bubble. So this is why every time we have an ascension, we've got weird fog, we've got weird mist. You're going to have a bunch of pneumonia. You're going to have a bunch, which is what they tried to tell you what COVID was, but bullshit. It's not what it is. You're having to breathe in space. Y'all were in your own little weird illusion that none of this was going on. Now that's fine and dandy until you try to take out the AB negative, replace it with a whole bunch of whatever to keep the human race in an illusion. Whenever there's like that space in y'all's helmet ran out a long time ago. You've been being gassed by the appliances that are in the gas stove, the gas this, the gas. I mean, that's when they started introducing it. Sears, Montgomery Ward, I mean, basically they took the gas chambers and just put it in our kitchen. So then you had your gas chamber and you had those elements. And then when the more of us that they were hybridizing, and what they were doing to us was making our energy, if as an RH negative in certain, if we're like the lead frog and you made us the lead frog, we didn't start out the lead frog. You just went and took this frog, this frog, this frog, this frog, put it in a blender and said, okay, I got the head of all the lead frogs and now this is the lead frog. But she's a Disney puppet.
Yeah.
But when Epstein got a hold of us, they started tuning us to gases. So our energy field was a gas layer. So wherever we went, we got people sick. Or we
Wow.
gassed you. This is also why for like the longest time, like whenever you'd listen to one of us, like especially me, people just go to sleep. You're like, I'm telling you all this freaking knowledge and I'm like screaming over here and like acting crazy and you go to sleep. Yeah. Because to them, it's like getting a whole bunch of nitrous.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. You mentioned that. Yeah. That makes
And
sense
whenever
because
you go in someplace and see now all that is kind of like, it really is what it is. And then when we went to California, every single time we'd leave California, they'd lift the COVID ban. As soon as I'd get back into California, they'd shut everything down again. That's why they wanted everyone in their rooms, because we had already mixed up all the gases. We had already redone everything. I mean, now we had gotten our frequency and all us gases got together and formed a congruent energy, and that would be considered what you'd call Christ consciousness or this energy field or the new energy. It was already here. But whenever everybody's not even used to dealing with space, it's like you come into contact with us, and it's also why we spend so much time in isolation and alone as we're coming through this and building up our power, because you don't want to get the karma by being with stupid people.
I understand that.
And our energy, like, and this is how, like, we make everybody horny when we're at parties
You know
and
what
we're
you're talking about?
dancing and we're having a good time. Like, everybody else gets like, you don't even have to be with a man. But warning, whenever you're talking about super fertility, if you're doing the ding dong on some divine energy, then you better be ready for a baby.
Wow. Well, we have one more question here, and then we'll probably go ahead and start getting this wrapped up a little bit.
Okay.
Why was the Book of Enoch hidden?
Because of what I just said.
That was simple.
All that. Enoch and Enlil. In my world with my two, and we walked all this again. And all y'all have. All y'all got an Enoch and an Enlil in your story. For me, when I talk about my two crazy weird twins or brothers or whatever, because in kind of another way it's like they made us part of their family in order to keep us in the family, right? But anyway, so it kind of ended up being brothers in another dimension. This is that whole 13th family weirdo crapo. Henry Cavill was Enlil.
Yep. You can express that, yeah.
And Jason Momoa is Enoch. Because Enlil is ill. Everything ill. It's going to be the Illuminati. It's going to be Agartha type energies. It's going to be more warlock.
Mm-hmm.
What we'd consider warlock energies, but trained, not operations.
Okay.
Enoch would be operations. Enoch would be, his group would be actually doing in the physical, doing stuff more and more attached to the human race and the making of the human race and the template as it changed over time. And then all of that mirrored to Enlil.
Wow, that just brings up just a Sator square for me.
But I don't know. Why am I doing this?
I don't know. Because the Sator square can be read in many different directions, but basically the Sator square is your farmer, your seeder, your plow, your tenant, which is the one who takes care of it. So
I want to hold it like this. I don't even want to bring it down. It's this. So there's got to be, I bet you. Now what's interesting is when I go like this, because you know how they're all, this, the hang 10 and all that, and because all the
right.
I mean,
Signs.
whenever they're doing that, what they're doing, there's certain ones, there's sigils for the land. Even this, that's one of them. You're doing it, which is just longhorns down here in Texas, hang loose, but that's another one. But I mean, this, like if you did your hands like this, and then you went like this, and then you flipped, and then you go like this, and that's how you square to That's how you line up to the sun.
I've seen you do that
Right.
on your TikTok when you was in Arizona, because
Right.
and then I see you, I've seen you with, doing something. So yeah, I've seen you make those hand movements in those are the what do you
But
call
see,
them?
the Enoch side is going to go into the Melchizedek.
Mm,
The Enoch side is going to be more of the Melchizedek story and how that's linked into, oh God, what's the other character? There's so many characters. Oh God, it was a different mythological version of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl.
yeah, because the Mayan.
Gilgamesh.
Ah,
That's all Enoch.
okay.
But Enoch and Enlil are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So basically Enoch's the one that's making it. He's living it. He's building it. Enlil's getting it because he's his brother. Enoch mixed with the man. That's what he left his DNA behind. Well, if you leave your DNA behind, then you're connected into it. If Enoch wouldn't have done that, then we wouldn't have been able to get back in here. Enlil wants to keep it totally separate.
Right.
Enlil created covens. Enlil created the galactic, all that crazy crap. Enlil created that. Enlil wanted to keep it separate. Enoch was like, at some point, the human race is going to have to wake up from this. We're making them in our image. I can't in the right consciousness do that. But Enoch lived with the people, it's like I
Yeah.
did. If I was down here all this time and I couldn't be rich, I couldn't be in their lines. I was purposely not put in their lines so that I wouldn't end up like them. I had to be poor. I had to be sick. I had to build my own company. I've been training to be a human. I've been being human. I've been living with the human race. My energy could have been living up there. If I would have been, you wouldn't have liked me when I came down here. Because I would
Right.
have known that I would have been just like them. Like, what are you doing? Why? I would have no compassion.
I can
But
see that.
this is what these energies are now having to do because they no longer have a bodysuit. It's down here.
It's like Zeus and Hades,
Same thing.
somewhat. I mean, it's just stories, and
It's stories over time, and it starts from a macro and then it'll get micro, micro, micro. That's why you need to start with astronomy, learn a little bit of it, and then go look at astrology, and then go look at the asteroids. If you go study all the freaking asteroids and all that, all the asteroid is like a piece of time that they named of a piece that didn't connect. If
it's just
you
floating
start
around
out
out there.
knowing all the pieces, if you see it, can you put together a 1,000-piece puzzle if you don't have a picture?
It's going to take a while if you do, and then it just all depends on if the piece is going to connect correctly, since they've been time does distort things.
Right. Especially whenever time is made to be distorted.
I get it. It's like it makes so much sense, but I get it from the heart. In the mind's like, what? Where'd that come from? What does that mean?
And that's
Because
what astrologists, it's like, I really need a badass astrologist. Like, I was already supposed to be doing interviews like this with an astrologist. Like, well, we already should have a show that this is what we talk about every week or every month or whatever. And they're giving their astrology and I'm giving the astronomy. See, that's what I was supposed to do with the Leo King. That's what was scheduled to happen. Because the astrology has its own information, but because the astrology is the information in the wheel, but the astrology is giving you all the weird cutouts.
yeah, because
for
it
your
deals with the
puzzles,
symbols. Yeah, it deals with the
because
symbols.
the astrology is what built the simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So in the astrology, the stars aren't out there; they're on land. like that map that came through in Telegram today, where it's like, here's Lyra and
Yeah.
here's Cygnus, and it's all like
Thank you, Annie.
blockchained. It's blockchained.
Yeah, it's like, man, it was, what was it? When we talk about higher houses, lower houses, and then there's the medium, there's the middle. That, it's like, you're getting people to understand you're the center of it all. You're the
David
center,
Palmer.
right?
I had to go meet him. I appeared like, that's how I did this. I just had to get around one, and I knew later on that all this memo and all this, and I wasn't going to be able to get around him, but I had to get next to one that was in the system, and he had a race. He races those Sea-Doos, and I was at 19th Street and Isis Street in LA, literally staying at an Airbnb.
You cannot make this up.
No.
19 and Isis
and 19th Street at an Airbnb that I couldn't even afford the bedroom to. So I paid for the couch, but no one ever even slept in the bedroom. I was there 2 weeks by myself. And while I was there, they started building an entire new Airbnb behind me with 7 rooms. Everywhere I went that year, AT&T showed up, put in a new smart meter, put in a new cable system. Like, it's nuts. So he broadcasted out on his different Instagrams and all that, because I already knew I had a connection with him and we should have been working together, because I was hearing it in the consciousness. And he said that he had a Sea-Doo, whatever, and he said it was like Elsinore. Well, he had basically put out enough information for me to figure it out. And he had made Instagram at that point, I think, that was like, hey, I'm going to be at the races, and if you want to be part of the Leo King tribe, then come support me. Well, he didn't really think anybody was going to show up. And so I found him. I'd never been to Lake Elsinore. I found him. And I was walking around going, do you know David? Do you know the Leo King? Do you know the Leo King? And they were like, what? And I'm at these races. And then sure enough, finally I see his big RV. That dude he was making $1 million a year. But I came up on him in a mirage, basically. And then right whenever I got around him, he had enough of the lizard DNA that it made it. That dude, you know how he sits there and he's like, oh yeah, Sylvester Stallone, he has Pluto in the 5th house, and and you're like, man, how are you remembering all that, right? He told me how. Well, this was the key. This is all I needed this is why I needed to be around him. Because he told me, oh, well, I'm the king. So I just asked him to show me. So in my head, I just go, collective, show me the chart. So literally, he's like, in his head, he'll be like, okay, Sylvester Stallone's chart. And literally his third eye, they just pull it up. Yeah. And that's whenever I realized, oh crap, I can tell him what to do. Oh, that's new. But it's kind of like herpes. If you've got that alpha draconic energy in your body, and then you come in with somebody else who's got that same level of energy, then it's going to ignite that herpes, but it's really just the nerve endings of the alpha drac. Well, the same thing with the abilities and the powers. You get one of us next to each other, and one of them's trained and one of them's not, then you're going to pick it up because you just synced with them. So basically your DNA this is why it's so important to meet me. You want to get in the physical, and a lot of y'all, whenever y'all meet me, you get sick right before you come. You typically, everybody that's come to meet me at different times, you'll get some type of cold or some type of flu or whatever, because you're having to upgrade your system. And then right before y'all come, y'all will have the most evil dream about me being evil. Every single time. They'll send you all this energy, and it makes you like second guess everything I'm saying, but it's also just making sure that you aren't going to bring that crap to me, right? So you're like tested, but same thing, because whenever you get into my energy, then what you're doing is you're upgrading your system,
right?
Just by being in front of me. but this is what you're doing to everybody else too. So this is why, and like, no matter how much we want to go out and go party and go da na 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 da na 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 na, because I'm so sick of being in this room. I'm about to, but
Right.
see, I made the mistake early on of, in these wide open energies, going around too many people, because then if I get around too many people, then I got to upgrade all of them.
I hear you. I can hear what you're saying and completely understand, because that is a remembrance of just experiences I've had where it's almost like I remember this because it's already happened. And so I mean I understand that that going to that hibernating area, because my sister does, she's a hermit. But it's because she can't handle being out there, because she can pick up so easily on people's energies. She can read them so clearly that it becomes overwhelming for her. And I can understand that. I really
Well,
can,
once your
because
energy is sealed, like, what, like, because we've been in such just a wide, I mean, and especially, the end of this 24 to 25, I mean, this isn't going to be necessarily a repeat next year, that we're going to, we're fine. We're to the point now that it's like, I'm having to, this is why I did all my hair and did all my makeup, and I'm having, it's like, I'm having to get used to, like, I'm preparing myself in order to get used to going out again, because
Mhm.
whenever you're sealed, it's amazing. Like,
Right.
you go out and you change, like, it's so cool, and it's such a trip, and like, everyone's having such a great time. Everybody's feeling like they're high, but they're not, because your energy is like pure freaking opium to them. So everyone just gets around you and they get giddy and happy and da 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 da. But right now is like, when you're wide open, it's like you're wrong. It's like going and doing it in your body's wrong side out.
No, I get what you're saying, because it's like there's been so many there's been so many times that I've been around a crowd of people, and there would be people that would show up that I've never met before, whatever it may be, whatever it would be. I was just hanging out with acquaintances and stuff, but my energy would be so high, because what I was doing is I was doing what I needed to keep my energy high, because of the energies that were around me, that
Right.
would keep the energies there kind of balanced. Because it was one of those that when you go around people, and they have pools and they're drinking, and there's a lot of people there with many different energies that some don't like, and this, that, and the other. I'm just sitting there observing. I'm high, just sitting there vibrating, and for the most part, it usually keeps to that um that
Well, and
balance
that's and
level.
that's a very feminine, like, that's where, and that's the goal. That's where your masculine will pop up, because, like, in those different scenarios, for the longest time I got a bad rap, because people thought, she thinks she knows it all and she won't let anybody have an opinion. And that is not the truth. The truth is that whenever you know the truth, and it's being written, and somebody delivers to you, now I'm not saying it's not true, but it's not the highest truth,
Hmm.
then I can't let that go. I have to call it out, especially with certain beings, because if I don't, then it stands. And
Right.
it doesn't matter what I've done up to that point, and especially if it's somebody who's purposely doing it to call it out, to set it low, right? So I got such a bad rap, because most of the time, with the energies that I was dealing with, is I was traveling around, not going out clubbing and not doing that kind of stuff, because I kind of learned how to do that, and actually that was my training ground to even be able, I was doing that stuff first, and learning how to change the energy before I was having to interact with all of them. But it's like my job, because everything was off balance, my job was literally to show up to teeter it off.
Right.
So it's like from that masculine perspective, it's like your masculine part of you is showing up to break the chain. The feminine is gonna keep it balanced as the chains are breaking, so that no one can even figure out that they broke.
Yeah, and I hear you on that, because there would be, there would be times that, particular individuals, there'd be times particular individuals would walk up to me because I'm just sitting there. I'm with myself. I don't have to be in conversation. I'm observing. That's just who I am. But they would come up and they would want to have a conversation, and they're sitting there and knowing that they're in that level of inebriation. But it's one of those that they speak whatever it is they're going to speak. Right. But when they would speak something and I knew there was no truth to it, I would correct by speaking a truth to it, by saying, no. You're only seeing how far you want to see, and you're doing it in a judgment. But what I can tell you is what I've noticed, because I've known this person longer and I know the character that they are. I can tell you, this is where some improvement has been. You just need to see.
Right. And the masculines always think they want to have sex with you. Like immediately. And I figured it out. It's because it's not necessarily because, yeah, we're attractive and stuff like that. Of course, sure. But it's our energetic. It's divine feminine energy, and they're not used to feeling it. And the first place they feel it is in their root chakra. So the first place that they feel it is in their wing wang. So they automatically think that they want to stick their wing wang in your woo-ha. And so they come up to you, and it's so funny because I got really good at this, and it's actually some of my funniest material, because they come in and they're all, and I know they're just feeling the energy, and right. Then I'll say something really, really wise, and they'll go, oh. Like, look, I appreciate it, but I know why you're wanting to diddle me. So
yeah.
And diddle. See,
right?
There's a reason I just called it that.
No, and it's true, because it's like, given the crowd that I hung out with, and that would take place, it was one of those that that energy becomes so strong through them sexually sometimes that it's like it's already overwhelming you, and you're like,
but see, we needed
down,
it to.
boy.
I mean, literally, when I did the King's thing and I made the deal with the Divine Feminine, because basically when all the IRA and all the gangsters in the prison system in 2019, because they put all the head of the IRAs in the same prison in 2012, by the way. The Clintons did that. So they moved all the head Irish mob, who's the one that, like, the original, you could call it the original Monopoly board. The Irish mob, they put them all in one prison system. So I mean, they've been like this was their great work. This whole thing.
Sounds like Shawshank to me.
That's what I'm saying. So in my world, it's like all of a sudden I'm alive in consciousness in a room with a bunch of criminals in lockup planning their stuff. Well, because they were planning it on me, I had to have a play. They had to. So in my world, they're like talking to the wall. I don't know what they saw. I don't know if they see an apparition. I don't know. But I was communicating with them. And they had to give me a play, but I didn't have anything. I had no money. I had no connections, but I'm supposedly the queen, right? Mm-hmm. So I told them that I'm going to buy 2 E's and I'm going to bet it all on the pussy. If I could tell you the amount of laughter that went off in that room, because they didn't have anything idea about quantum phonetics. They didn't have any idea about what was coming. E is change. And what all words have E in it? Queen, 2 E's specifically. So any word that's got 2 E's specifically, then that means I control it in every dimension. And then once we change it, then what are we going to do? We're going to bet it on our energy, because we can sit here without sex, and we can sit here without money. We can sit here without it. We can sit here forever. We have been 72 million years. They cannot. They cannot survive without their money. They don't know how to do anything without any money. They cannot survive without their sex, because they don't know how to make any energy without sex. So about 2021 is whenever they started figuring out that I played them. Because we knew that everything was going to change and be tunable. But I mean, it was a big joke for a long time. But
Right.
that's how we did it. And in that time in 2019, and it was the end of 2019, it's like, and at the beginning of 2020, all the kings and queens in the game, we had to make payroll. Like we literally had to go raise money because it was a game. We had to make payroll, and there were certain moves. I should have been able to take certain vintage clothes and get a certain amount of money and da 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 da. And then they were cutting me off from getting any of it, knowing that as soon as I got 50 or 60 for the vintage clothes, and that was going to turn into 500, 600, 6,000, 5,000 down to y'all. So that's why they wouldn't even let me exchange. See, and the more that they did that, then the more the game with the two E's embedded all on the ooh started showing up, because you have to let me play.
Right. Yeah. It can't be a one-sided game. I mean, how much fun is that really?
I mean, this is how we outright, and this is how the Divine Feminine did it. I mean, this wasn't just like we woke up and said, "Oh, we're the Divine Feminine. Give us da da da, and we have protection." No, it's not how it worked. We had to walk the whole thing. We had to build up our protection, buy all the magic that they sent us. We had to alchemize everything that was being sent to us. We had to, I mean, and that's why we have all the knowledge that we have now, and that's why we had to do it, because we're here teaching the other ones how to do it now, because we didn't remember either.
Right. No. Beautiful. This has been so much fun, Chesty. I'm glad that we got the chance and opportunity, and you was able to come on and jump on here and, express, all this beautiful chaoticness that's just going on, because like you said, this can't be a one-sided game. It's not a game whenever it's just one side. And, what's crazy is that there doesn't have to be any sleight of hand or cheating that goes on. There's just only must be one thing that a lot of them don't hold any longer, and you've brought that forward, and that's just
Well,
getting
in
back to that
every
common
single
sense.
dimension of that, because of the alchemy that did, I mean, even me dyeing my hair today, I've been waiting for like 3 weeks to do my roots, but I had to wait till all this TikTok stuff and whatever. And then the reason I did is because I want to get all this dark roots off my hair, because the dark, I'm frying their connections.
Right.
This is
That's the reason why
also
they call it hair dyeing.
well, this is why certain ones of them pop up platinum,
Gotcha.
but not all of them. And whenever they pop up platinum, notice what time it is, like what else is going on. So the alchemy of it and the pieces of it are what's already in the system. So this is, I mean, so we'll close it out the way we started it. It's simple. The video games and the technology were here for only one reason. They were here to teach us connectivity. They were here to teach us that we could program. They taught, all the technology did was teach you how to build and program your body, and give us the understanding as a human race of how connected it can be. This ascension is a video game. All of us that walk this, that's what our intention the whole time. And this was even the astrophysicists and the ones that, were like half, being utilized or whatever. But it is a video game. It has different levels. There's stuff that's laid in the levels with the alchemy. So it's like we're at the point you shouldn't, if there's an attack and you feel some type of attack, then call in for the ancestors alchemy. Say, show me what's in my room right now. What do I have? And you'll be like, okay, I see a brick, and I see a piece of chalk.
Mhm.
Okay. It's not going to make any sense, then you've got it. That's the druid in you. And what you're doing is you're just seeing, okay, evidently this is how they got out of it. Okay, so I'm looking for a brick and a chalk. Am I supposed to go find it? No, it's going to show up. Okay, then you get in the car and you're like, oh my God, is that a big That's a big monster drawn on that red brick building with chalk. Right? Because
Yep.
it's going to lead you somewhere else. Because if it's going on in your mind, it's going to pop up, like I said, when you were like, and I said, I'm seeing a black hole in the middle of a stellar whatever. And then the next thing was show me M1. Then I'm showing y'all a picture. But was I seeing that I was probably fixing to do that? Probably.
At some point, you may not know what point, but that point will show up.
Well, I just said it. I'd see in my third eye a stellar galaxy with a black hole. Then one of them asked about an M1. I go look it up, and there's the picture. I probably seen, now I could have seen it in my third eye, and that's why we're blowing it up. I don't know. We're doing it all at the same time. But I mean, as far as like you as a being understanding your abilities, it's gonna pop up in the physical. This is the major misconception. When you're dealing with cosmic energy and whatever happens out there in the cosmos, it happens down here. It's what makes it happen down here.
Interesting, because when you bring that up, I was looking at the constellation Norma, and of course, there's these different levelings of what they call it, but it's called NORMEA, so it's Norme or Normia, but they had like large letters, and it was like QE, EV, and these were different clusters, or one of them was a I can't remember what it's called, but it wasn't a black hole. It was one of the ones that it was a quasar star, and there was light coming out of the center instead of it being a black, what you would call a black hole, because it was a quasar. So you're talking about that connection for the M1, and then looking it up and seeing, what you saw, because it's
well, and that's okay. So here's Normia on change the V, change the vamp, because V is basically vampiric energy.
mm-hmm.
I mean, V is a Wicca U.
So it's almost like
You've got the cosmic, that's gonna be, but a V
okay.
is a Wicca, because Wicca symbols are all line, angle,
Right. Right. Sharp.
and
Just,
angelic symbols are all flow, circle, loop, right? So I mean, a V is basically just a Wicca U.
Gotcha.
A Wicca U. But EV, that's change V, that's change the V, and then what was the other one?
QE or Q, I think it was QE or QV.
And then that's QV. So that's literally like Q,
mm-hmm.
storage, queuing, storage procedures and Q code. So I'm gonna recall. I'm gonna Q V.
Okay.
So one of them's like queuing V, and the other one's changing it.
So this is where the ROM and RAM comes in?
Well, it's queuing V, it's bringing a source in, and then this one down here is changing it.
Wow.
So that even be like Isis, Osiris.
Okay.
But that's what those same frequency, just a different propulsion.
Okay. All right. This is so much fun. It's just wonderful, and if anything, we're definitely grateful that you come on and have these conversations for
That's what I'm here for, man. Y'all kept me alive,
and we so appreciate.
The human race did. Y'all did. It y'all literally, y'all would not let them take me out, because you knew that I was the only one that could help get all this information into the collective. I'm not the only one that's going to be speaking it. I'm not the only one that's saying it. Thank goodness. Everybody, thank goodness. And this is also once it's here and once it's going out to everybody, it makes me so happy, because all I've known is that I just needed to get it all out and get it here, so then I can go do something I want to do, Like
Right.
you only have so much space, and that's for all of us star seeds that have to deliver. Well, that's why, because you got to deliver. You get it out. You get it out. But it's literally like it has to come out of you so that you can make more space. And it's
Right.
like you've got to get to the right person in the right groups in order to deliver the right information, because they're gonna take it and run with it. They're gonna, and that's what I keep telling y'all. Y'all are gonna go further in a lot of this than I did, but in various angles. I only had all the keys. I had all the keys so I could build the nails. I could put the nails in the boards. But and then I'm supposed to go and now do, because I've got a culmination of the energy. So now it's like it's like I'm getting prepared to go actually build with it and then go to the next level, so that then we're building with it. So then all these people that are coming out of it, they'll no longer be, you'll be coming out and creating at the same time. For all of us that just came through it, we had to completely come out of it, cut all the energies off of it, drain all the gas tanks, like suffocate the hell out of the energy completely. And then we have to turn around and create. Well, as soon as all of us can get more into creating all the time with the energy, then for everyone else, it's like as soon as you clear it, you're creating. You clear, you create, because they're happening at once. Both sides right now, they were only creating avenues to the past. This is why we had to terminate all of their connections, because we aren't going to the past. We're going to go that direction, whatever that leads. That's where we're going.
That's about damn time.
Right, we got to create forward. So
right. So, yeah, and just keep going. There's going to be times it seems as though there's going to be some frustration. There's going to be some times
and in the very beginning, you're going to, most of the time, not sometimes, when you don't lie, when you first break out of the matrix, and once your little buzz wears off, because you've got all that backed up energy in your spinal cord, it's sheer hell.
Yeah,
it's sheer hell. You're getting your ass kicked all over the place. You didn't even realize you was in a room with the warlock. You didn't even realize you had a voodoo doll underneath someone's bed that looked like you. You have to learn so much so quick. But every time you level up, and once everything's happening, all the consciousness is there. You're not being punished. You're being taught. Use every resource that you can. Do not be egotistic about it. Say, hey, when you get to a point where you feel like you hit a wall, then this is what Christ would tell you to do. Call in the footsteps. Show me whose footsteps walk before me and come show up and help me. That's all you got to do. If the ego is going to make you think that you can't walk that same direction.
Right.
The ego knows it's the only way out.
Right. And it's going to fight you every way. Yeah, because that's the one thing I can tell you is I know when there's that time that my ego is putting up that resistance, because I start gritting my teeth. But my other one is I begin to have self-dialogue with myself, and I'm arguing with myself. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Get over yourself. This isn't happening. We've played this game before. We're moving forward. And so that's how I know that whenever I'm having those moments that I'm having to direct my ego and say, it is what it is. We've done this before. It's time to move on. I'm ready to get the hell out of where we're at and begin to create in the way that this is meant to be done. Right. I'm tired of this game in the way that it's been played.
But don't be tired of the game. Just realize that now you're in the game.
Well,
it is a game.
Yeah,
it really is. Like right now, I mean, and when when more than 50% of the human race is out of this, then it won't be a game.
Right.
Right now, it is a game. It's much easier to think about a game because you've got another life. Whenever you're in those energies, if you make a wrong decision, it's not going to end your game. No. You've got another life. You've got an energetic that's over you. If you make the wrong decision, it's going to slap you around a little bit, and it'll hurt, but you'll laugh about it because you know exactly why you just got slapped.
Yeah,
But
you will.
but you're not getting murdered.
No.
In the other version, that would have been it.
Right.
That,
And that falling taught me that.
right.
That falling that day taught me that. I fell. It could have definitely been worse. And it was like there's that innateness that told me that. But I got up. I was bruised. I was sore. That's about
Right.
it.
So it
And
was
I was
just a
good.
little wrong misstep, but then that misstep we're here to make mistakes. You're here to make mistakes. Say it. I'm here to make mistakes.
I'm here to
Say it.
make mistakes. I've been
Say
making
I'm
mistakes.
on earth and I'm here to
I'm
fuck
on
some
it
shit up.
so I can get it right.
Right. You're not there. Trial and error is what makes wisdom.
It is.
The problem is nobody had trial and error. Problem is everybody got the directions. They did the directions. Everybody followed a direction, whatever direction it was. Nobody was making trial and error, and nobody had any wisdom because they were just stealing everybody's timelines. There wasn't
Right.
any knowledge behind it. That's why there's no gratification behind it. That's why no matter how much you would be successful, Jason Momoa is the most miserable son of a bitch right now in existence. But
Yeah. What are you gonna do about it?
you wanted all the stuff and but you didn't listen, and I told you didn't have to make a decision, but you wanted to play it their way, so you didn't even have to give anything up, like, but that's each lesson is going to be learned like that. So because you're going to get the more that you get your ass kicked, the more God loves you, and it ain't the devil doing it.
No. It's just this is a part of it. This is the journey. It really ultimately is. And that, and there are times that, like I said, when I've come to that space and place and I realize and I recognize what I'm doing to me, it doesn't have to be about anybody else. I'm just doing it to myself. It's understanding that there are things that are going to show up in my environment that my ego is going to draw me to pay attention to because it's done it before. And that's how I begin to realize and recognize, no, I'm not doing this again. No more. We're going to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter what someone else is doing, being, or saying.
And just remember to create another solution. Like, no, I'm not going to do it this way, but if you come to me like this, I'll do it.
Right.
Whenever they say no, make sure whenever you say no, because it's like, no, okay, are you ready just to walk in here? Are we ready to say it's fair and square? I don't know you, you don't know me, we're just gonna meet, right? No,
Right.
you gotta pay me $1,500. Well, screw you. Here's what's gonna happen to you. Because you got to have this cut from you and you've got to have this cut from you because I'm still waiting for one to come in and meet me halfway. I just know I don't owe you nothing. The fact that you think I owe you something is going to then require him to pay a whole bunch of people. If he thinks I owe him, then everyone's going to be like, yo, remember that loan I gave you? I need it back. Yo, the bank just called, man. They pulled your collateral. Yo, see that this is what they're setting up for themselves. He'll do it. He'll get it. He'll see it. He'll drop down to his knees. He'll lose everything. And then he'll know that I'm the only one that can pick him up. Then he'll want to come in and go 50%. Well, am I still here? I don't know. Hopefully not, because that dude's slow. But we'll see.
I put off tomorrow what you can get done today.
That's my thing. Is like, that's what I've been saying the past 4 years. And I said it 2 days ago. Could you imagine how far we would be right now if we just were working together instead of you thinking that you could take me out? But this is you not being able to see that I'm you.
Take the veil. Remove the veil.
And you definitely don't want to mess with the feminine version of any race in this cycle. I can promise you that. Every single male race, if it's in a feminine form, and I ain't talking like a chick with a dick, I'm saying an original woman born in a woman's body in this dimension, there ain't no way that a male form is going to out either them or that it's going to out anything them. It's the male ego thinking that it can. But this is also this teeter-totter of second guessing yourself.
Right.
Because it's just your masculine form that's doing it. Now, all that said, the masculines, they past 3 days, the masculines are getting messages. The masculines are waking up. It's calmer. It's coming in a way that they can get it. They're not running. It's almost like we've had to put them on a drip, because if they got too much at once, they started crying and they couldn't stop. And then it would create an avalanche of drug addiction and numbing agents, sex addiction, all of it, because they're trying just to go to work and they can't stop crying. So the good news is that the way it's been done is that it seems like it's hitting more of the mental things, and they're starting to just pick up and witness things that then is changing their body gradually, instead of it hitting their body all at once and then just shutting them off. Because most of the time it wasn't that they didn't recognize it. It's like they just thought that they couldn't handle it.
And there's
This sounds real fun and interesting, but
it's the truth. It's the truth. You know, this is just that. This is the walk. It really is. It's the walk. And you know, each of us, you understand, we're all here doing and mastering what we learn about ourselves each day.
Right.
Because for every second, every moment, every day, we get a chance and opportunity to know what not to do.
Right.
And, you know, the more we understand what not to do, the greater wisdom we have in order to understand how to approach what.
Well, and the move that you made wasn't wrong. You just start same move, wrong foot, wrong partner, wrong assistance, wrong place, right move, wrong time. It's you're gonna be right. That's what you have to determine. You have to determine which piece of it was correct, because you're not gonna move it all when you get up into certain energies out of the main, because it's body consciousness. You're doing it. Your body's just gonna take over and do it. You were a puppet.
True.
So it's not that you're wrong. It's just what was not right. Like, stop. What is missing? This is what's missing, not what's there, not what's missing. The bite out of the apple, the this, the that. It's little bitty things. What's missing? Pence. Where's Mike Pence? See, like, where's Pence? Under Bush? Like, what's missing? Because it'll just stop coming around. It'll just go Price Waterhouse Cooper. Where is it? Missing. MCI Worldwide. What's it? Missing. Is it really missing, or is it called something else? But it's missing. Then they'll pop it back up, and it's like all of a sudden there's Price Waterhouse Cooper. You're supposed to act like it's been here since the 80s. Wait a minute, hold on a minute. It's been missing.
Oh, that is interesting you point that out, because whenever I was doing a little bit of research and understanding, you know, about ROM, how I just did like this huge, like just general search as to how we went from, you know, what the old system of way of memory and how things were kept up with in the, you know, in the beginning, to up to where we're at now. I was noticing how much it was jumping over the timeline of certain things, because it would put a date here for one specific thing, and I would look down a little further and it'd put the same thing with a different date. I was
good. And now with what they did with this whole TikTok thing, just get ready for that to jump, because we're so far down. I mean, y'all, like, we don't even have 5%. I don't even, I still haven't had sex, and I still don't have a permanent microphone. My voice and my sexual energy are my two most powerful things. I'm still not on the mass media. I'm still not having sex. Whenever I do start doing one of these, then I'm going to go from 5 to 10%. So FYI, this is 5 to 10%. I mean, I the way that the how I stayed alive and not went Isaiah is I buried my way all the way to the bottom. Well, when I did, I blew out the bottom. I'm like, all right, underneath all of them. Okay, we're bringing all of them out. But literally, that's why.
Right.
That's how we did it. That's how we stayed hidden. So I'm just saying that to remind everybody that, I mean, this is 5 to 10%. Like this that everyone think is like so amazing, and when we can make the technology do all this stuff and it just changes. Well, we're only operating at 5 to 10% right now. It's going to go further and further and further and further. That's the main thing with the spiritual community. Everybody would get to the next level and then they'd sit down. It's like, oh, I got to the next level. Yeah, okay, you're on level 1 because you were on Harry Potter's half floor.
And you forgot your damn broom. I'm just saying.
No
Broom's on the
chocolate
10th
frog for
floor.
you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and call this in this right here on a great, way to on a good laugh.
Yeah.
To be able to know that we're doing this.
You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And whenever
And
new
all-
stuff comes in, then you're going to know about it.
And all is as it should be.
Love you guys.
Have a great night. And thank you for being here.